By this point, if you have not heard of Trench Crusade, you must be living under a rock, because it's everywhere, and for good reason. Honestly, I think it is going to change the world of tabletop gaming, and I've got a few good reasons why. Okay, so why is it important? Well, first off, because it's proof that small companies can compete. I mean, this Trench Crusade on Kickstarter and on their Tribes campaign alone has brought in over $8 million. Okay, which is just insane. And I know that they have brought in more than that. I know they have, but just from selling their models, from people getting to it late who want to buy the models, I'm sure it's way over that. And all they're selling are 3D printable files right now. Okay, and there are armies for different factions, and yeah, they've got a lot of factions. They've got extra weapons for those factions. They've got big units. They've got small units. They've got everything. They were well prepared coming into these campaigns, and it's a huge deal because everyone is looking at them. Like I said, if you haven't heard of them, I would be shocked. Because Trench Crusade is on every content creator's channel. The style and everything behind it, people are loving. And you might be thinking, well, there's tons of companies that are like that. But what makes them different is that these are 3D printed pieces. They expect you to have a 3D printer or get to someone that has a 3D printer or use someone else to print these models for you at this point in time. Sure, eventually I'm sure that they will sell kits and things like that, but for right now, it's just the files through my mini factory. So 3D printed games can compete with major game companies. That's huge. And I know you might be thinking, well, Gamesworkshop makes $8 million a day or whatever it is, and that might be true. But this is a new company that's muscling its way in, and honestly, it's all people can talk about. Yes, Warhammer is still big, and yes, they're always going to be big. But Trench Crusade, at least for now, is pulling away some of their business because so many people just want to be involved with it. And another reason that this is such a huge thing is because it goes to show that a small team can make something huge. I feel like in so many things, in video games and other things, the last decade has been kind of in a weird slump where not a ton of things have happened. And now it seems like things are starting to get better again because these small, indie developers are putting things out that are just really good quality. And Trench Crusade is one of those things. And so I love to see that. And I think one of the craziest things is that these guys showed up to Adepticon for Trench Crusade, and they brought they had a booth that was filled with props for people to take pictures, and they talked to the creators and the story, the writers and things like that. And their booth wasn't really selling anything, It was just like, check out our game. This is what it is. This is so cool. And like they were teaching people how to play and things like that. But I mean, at Adepticon, their booth was just non-stop busy, even though, they didn't have millions of dollars of product on hand to sell or anything like that. It was just like, people are so involved in this, and they care not just about the game itself, but about the lore, the artwork that's behind it, and how the game is played. Like, it's just making huge waves, and it's crazy to see something like this happen right now. And I know that there are other companies out there that are 3D printing models for games. One Page Rules is the one that always comes up and people always talk about. And I think it's great, but I don't think it has ever had this kind of publicity. And so I always was kind of worried that maybe it wasn't going to succeed. But with Trench Crusade, that fear is gone. Because the more people that get into Trench Crusade, the more people get into buying 3D printers, the more people want to try other games because they have a 3D printer, and the more people will eventually go over to One Page Rules. And so I feel like for the 3D printing community, This is only good. And another thing that I have to bring up about this game is that it has free rules. So they're literally not selling you anything physical right now. You know, yes, there's going to be books and things like that eventually, but you can get the rules for free. You can get the well, you can't get the models for free, right? But you're buying the STL files for the models at a discounted price. It's crazy to see a company that can survive, and not only survive, but thrive and grow while they're not really selling anything. I mean, their overhead must be fantastic, right? But it goes to show again that good lore, good art, and a good game is enough to hook people and get them into this hobby, which I think is fantastic. And another thing that this kind of just goes to show is you don't need to have $1,000 to get into a game. I mean, literally, a 3D printer, you can buy a 3D printer for $200. Yes, I know, that's a big investment up front. But then once you've done that, you can start 3D printing these models and, you know, you can go on My Mini Factory. You can find a starter pack for the different factions for $30. It comes with 7 or so models. And you might be thinking, well, $30 for 7 models, that's a lot. You can print 1,000 of those models if you want to. You can print as many as you want. You want a friend to play with? Guess what? Print him an army for $8.
That's cheap. What?
$8. You can print him an army and you have your own army. You know, I mean, printing a miniature costs what? 50 cents a miniature? $1 maybe, depending on how you're printing things. So that original upfront investment, yes, it is big. But that's the only investment that you have to do. Resin isn't terrible. Things like that. You know, filament isn't terrible. You can print these models in filament. I've seen a lot of people doing it. There are ways to get into this hobby, and it doesn't have to cost you an arm and a leg. Everyone thinks that getting into tabletop gaming is going to cost them a minimum of $500, and this is proof that that's not the case, and it can be well under that amount. And once you have a printer, you can print all sorts of crap. You can print whatever you want. They're great. Like, I love having printers. But yeah, anyway. Not a huge investment to get into. One of the things that I always worry about when I talk about skirmish games is that people don't want to get into them. They wanted to get into those games where they have 100 units. They want that full army feel. Everybody wants that. And hands down, Warhammer has the monopoly on that right now. They do. And they probably always will. Okay? Because it's a huge investment to get into that. And so you have to be established. You have to have what people want to see. There are companies like Conquest, you know, and things like that that are doing their best to fight that. And they're doing a pretty good job. But what 3D printing does is allow you to print those armies so cheaply. And maybe, like I said, maybe you don't have a 3D printer. That's okay. Because if half of us get free 3D printers and we start this process of 3D printing our own models, it's going to force the market down. I mean, eventually it's going to have to. If everyone wants to play Trench Crusade and they can print their army for $20 or $30, they're going to start thinking, well, why do I have to pay so much for everything else? And so I feel like eventually it'll bring things down. Is it going to be fast? No. Is it going to be quick? Probably not. Is it going to force Games Workshop to start allowing you to 3D print certain things? We're seeing other companies do it. In fact, I did a video on it not too long ago that you can find here, where Warmachine is starting to 3D print some of their models, and it's fantastic. And there's other companies out there that are doing it and starting it, and I think it's just the beginning of a movement, because they know with things like Trench Crusade coming out, why compete with them when you can join them? So maybe that'll force prices down, maybe it won't. I'd be interested to know what you think. Is anything going to change the market the way that it is currently right now? And no, I'm not talking about tariffs and things like that. I'm talking about, you know, actual industry changes like what Trench Crusade has done. Let me know. Let me know if you think it will change it for the better. Let me know if you think Trench Crusade is the start of something that's good or bad. I'd be curious to know what you think. And while I read those comments, I will be looking for the army that I'm going to be purchasing off of my mini factory for Trench Crusade, so I can start printing my own. You know, and next week I'm going to be doing a review on 1490 Doom, which is kind of awesome. like I'm not going to lie. The more I learn about that game, and it's a very similar thing, 3D printed miniatures, for a game, and this one's quick 30-minute matches with 3-man groups and stuff. Like, it's awesome. It's amazing. So if you want to see that, subscribe, hit that little bell, and the next time I post a video, you'll be notified, and you'll be able to check out 1490 Doom, and further down the road, a little stuff on Trench Crusade. Here at Pulsegate Games, we're all about letting you know what's out there and making your tabletop experience the best it can be. So please, subscribe, drop a comment below, and stick around, because we got more content coming. And as always, don't spend so much time building your world that you forget to spend some time in it. Till next time.